Good evening to you all. Brandon, good evening. How you doing?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Good. Those of you guys that are with us, thank you so much for hopping on. Feel free to leave comments of what you thought about this WWE draft. That will be the bulk of our conversation tonight, in between some of the Raw results that we had throughout the night. Not a terrible Raw, not the greatest Raw either. Had my attention the whole time, but so that's what we're gonna get to tonight. It's been a couple weeks, Brandon.
Yeah,
How you been? How you feeling?
good.
How did you feel about tonight's Raw?
I definitely agree. Like you said, you had to keep up with it, but a lot of the draft shows are very intentionally made where the matches are not exactly the matches that you need to see, but they're closing up and tying up a lot of loose ends. So a lot of people that needed that one more match that are going to two different brands, now at least they have that match. So there were a couple of those, but yeah, it wasn't matches to die for, but they had plenty of draft time. And it's always good to see some of the returning faces coming back too, catching the Dudley Boys, catching APA come on. Like that's great to see too.
What's up, drop kick discussions? Thank you so much for checking in, man. Yeah, I've noticed there was not a lot of movement in this draft whatsoever.
hmm
Not not one
A
bit.
lot
A
more
lot of people
NXT,
stayed.
a lot more NXT than I figured tonight,
Yeah,
and especially to end the draft, which obviously we'll go through, but to end the draft on an NXT name was very surprising to me.
that was great. But that's the one criticism you're gonna hear about this draft is
Mhm.
that um not many people moved. Pretty much the majority of the roster stayed where they needed to. Or they just stayed where they were. And then we had people that did move were probably the ones that actually really needed it, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
Mhm.
But I was excited about the NXT names that you brought up, but this is not really one of my favorite drafts as far as movement goes. Love the NXT stuff, but there was not a lot of movement from Raw to SmackDown. So that part of it was very underwhelming. I feel like you could have at least moved one half of a roster to the other if you really wanted to shake things up. But I digress. We're gonna buzz through the Raw show because tonight we're gonna be doing a recording of Backlash Prediction Show, which will air on Wednesday night. So that is happening. So we're gonna buzz through the Raw show and maybe mostly just cover the draft and like the most important stuff that happened. So we're gonna buzz through this Brandon as fast as we can. Logan Paul shows up with Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes to me is the heel of the NFL. So if you want to get heat on somebody, just pair him with Pat Mahomes. And Pat Mahomes did his thing tonight and his shenanigans with his rings, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. But then we see Becky Lynch opens up the show, staying on Raw. Since she's the champ, all champs basically stayed put. That was the clause of this draft that none of the champions moved, which I totally agree with. But like I said, I feel like there should have been more movement of WWE talent in this draft. Champs were protected. To no surprise, Liv Morgan shows up in the middle of Becky Lynch's interview and saying that Becky owes her one. A title match, of course, that Liv Morgan's alluding to. Liv did what Becky couldn't do at Mania, and that was by taking out Rhea Ripley. That's why Liv Morgan saying that she is owed one by Becky, and that the end game was always going to be me, Liv Morgan, that is, and and that she won't stop until she gets everything that she wants. We see Nia Jax show up, even though she was drafted to SmackDown. So, as you guys know, the draft effects don't go in effect until Monday, right after Backlash. Nia Jax says it's her last night on Raw. She also says, if I'm leaving, I'm taking one of you with me. Liv drop kicks Nia Jax, setting up their match for later. What did you think of this segment, Brandon?
Again, I think it's smart. You need that one last match that Nia Jax, like she said, she's leaving, and like I said before, a lot of the matches today were kind of the little, close the envelope and lick it, stamp it, do all that, send them on their way, and that's exactly what you need with the Nia Jax versus Liv, which is also a 5'3" nothing up to a 6 foot giant in the women's division. So always good to try to match them two up and see if it's really speed versus power, and we'll speak more of how the match went. But I think, like I said, very smart to get Nia Jax involved and get people who might care about her, which I hate to say it that way, but people that care about her to watch SmackDown the next time she's there in a week and a half's time.
Absolutely agreed 100% on that. Pretty good segment. Excited to see what Nia Jax is going to do. So she'll be seeing a couple different faces. So let me see what we got here. It felt good seeing LWO and LDF splitting up as a feud. It was easy to change the channel. I was a little surprised to see NXT draft. No one either. I honestly thought that NXT was going to be part of the draft, picking from the WWE roster. I think that would have added more importance to the NXT roster rather than WWE picking from NXT. I hope they figure out what to do with the stables. I mean, as far as LWO goes, we'll talk more on that a little bit later, but I think that's gonna go forward without Carlito, for sure. The Pride and Testament, they're just gonna be finding new feuds. I'm interested to see if maybe Judgment Day and Final Testament like merge or something. That would be pretty interesting. Like talk about like NWO kind of stuff.
Wow.
Like that would be
9 people involved. Yeah.
That would be pretty interesting. Like two distinctive groups, but kind of merged together. It would be pretty interesting. Round 1 draft notes. Gunther stays on Raw again. No surprise. Nobody moved that much as far as WWE roster goes. But notice it's just him and Ludwig Kaiser. No Da Vinci, because Da Vinci is out. He's probably going to go to NXT. But I would imagine that Da Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser may have a blow-off match. Maybe they could. I don't think they'll set that up for Backlash. They'll probably have a blow-off match maybe next week or on Raw or something like that. We'll have to see what happens there. I have my suspicions as to who's going to join Imperium. We'll get to that in just a short bit. But Damage Control is on Raw, so they're going to be more focused on Raw. And we saw that their little running with Becky tonight, so they're hinting at a feud, which I could probably see Becky and Io maybe going at, or Dakota Kai. And then of course you'll have Damage Control floating around on the 2 brands, so that's happening. What did you think of this round 1?
I was a little surprised. I figured Damage Control might stay together. I was thinking we might have seen a what was it, like a New Day type thing where 2 of them were taken and 2 of them go somewhere else. So it is good to see them together, but because of the belts floating around, that the belts can be defended on any SmackDown, Raw, or even NXT, I was a little surprised that they didn't break them up and kept them as a faction. But we'll see I guess we'll see in time if they decide to keep them as a faction, as a strong girl group, or if they let the belts kind of resonate above keeping Dakota and Asuka in that group. Or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Dakota and who's not holding the belt now? Sorry, it's Asuka and
Io.
Right. Io, who lost her belt, right? So I'll see. I guess, like you said, see what they do with that grouping of 4. But the belts probably will overshine the entire thing as long as they hold them.
Yes, I feel Io here might get semi-lost in the shuffle because you have Liv Morgan cooking right now. Rhea's going to be back. Probably, I said I'm saying between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, somewhere in the middle, Rhea should be fine. She'd be back by then, well before Royal Rumble season. And I believe as soon as Rhea gets back, she's going to immediately be in number one contention for that belt. Maybe get one or two cracks at it before winning it back for sure. Maybe she wins it back no later than WrestleMania of next year. Have another WrestleMania moment. Yeah, so I feel like Io might get a little lost in the shuffle. They really got to build some extra importance because I feel like she's. I just don't feel like she's getting any title anytime soon. At this point, but will she be main eventing with Becky? Yeah, absolutely 100% for sure. But I'm not convinced that Io's a threat to taking that title off of Becky right now, for sure. Gunther, who declared to be in the King of the Ring, is taking on the last King of the Ring winner, Xavier. And that was in 2021 already, like 3 years ago.
Wow.
That happened. Xavier was at a point in the match where his knee was getting targeted the whole match, and he was about to tap out. And you see a spot where Kofi Kingston gets on the ring apron and about to throw in the towel. Xavier insists not to do it. I got it. I got this. And Kofi Kingston's like, all right. He throws the towel back in the crowd, and the match goes on for about another minute or so. And Gunther wins with the STF. One of my favorite parts in this is their chops back and forth. Gunther's must see. It doesn't matter who you put him against. However, I'm a little tired of seeing Gunther going against New Day every week.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really kind of like low key what's been happening. But Gunther is must see every single week. What did you think of this one?
I think now, as we said, losing Vinci, you now have a solid tag team with Gunther and Kaiser. So at least if it is going to be tag team, at least it can be a 2-on-2. But like you said, it's not stale because it is always must see, but it is getting to that point of like, all right, what's next for him? And
Absolutely.
now that he came back today as well, like they gave him a little bit of time since he lost that belt at WrestleMania.
3 segments.
It still looks dominant. So it's good to bring him back and still appear dominant. And now for him to beat the last King of the Ring definitely elevates the King of the Ring a little bit higher.
This match got 3 segments, so it was a good match. But honestly, WWE right now is on a short-term cruise control with Gunther, getting to the King of the Ring. Have him win the tournament to kind of help elevate him a little bit for the next plan. Of we believe we know that Gunther's going to be the guy to beat Cody, and they're just elevating Gunther even more. But during so did you see this? So I don't know if many fans pick up on this, but they probably do. During the Jey Uso interview, you see the background Liv Morgan walking like further away down the hall, and trailing right behind Liv Morgan is Dominic following behind Liv Morgan. So one of two things are happening here. Either Triple H is just playing with us and, making us as wrestling fans think. And I'm cool with that. I love seeing some random stuff in the background. That's Triple H's MO and Paul Heyman. Between those two guys. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. Or the other thing is they're low key working on Dominic and Liv Morgan, becoming a thing while Rhea Ripley is gone, or Liv Morgan, trying to steal Dominic, because Liv Morgan's gone on record a couple weeks ago or months ago, or whatever, telling Rhea Ripley, "I'm going to take everything. I'm going to take everything that you love from you."
Huh. So yeah, I guess you know what? Maybe that's the thing too. They'll start using both their arm injuries, saying that mommy's going to be away, and then they'll try to build towards Liv being like you said. I stole the last 6 to 9 months of your career. Now I'm going to steal your man and just build from there. It's a good idea. It's definitely. I mean, I saw they also had a face off later on, so it was silent. It was only about a 3 second. They stared at each other a little bit later on in the show.
Did
So
they have another face-off? How did I
they
miss
did.
that?
I don't. It was like I said. It was a 3 second right before a commercial, but they
Oh,
Liv popped up out of nowhere, and again, her little 5 foot frame. They were able to shoot the camera very well, where she walks right in, and they just stare at each other, and then I believe it either cut to commercial or it went on to another segment of where it says next right in the bottom left, and somebody was walking. So it was very very quick.
I totally missed that tonight. That happened certainly last week too.
Okay. I do remember seeing a little bit of that too. So I guess
Yeah.
that's more they are building to something.
So they're low
So
key
you
building.
saw in the back, and
Yeah,
I
I saw
was
in the
able to
background.
see. Yeah, and I was able to see what
This was
happened.
the harder part.
That's funny.
Oh
I
man.
thought I thought you were talking about the glitch, and I can't remember when it happened, but there was another little glitch of the screen. So I think they're building to that Bo Dallas who wasn't picked today.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that really quick. I
again, I don't
mean,
remember when it was on in the show. Like I don't remember if you,
it
but I saw
was
that little clip. I don't know what it was, but it's always that little camera glitch, and they did it for another second or so.
yeah. So I texted one of my groups about this, and this happens around. Let me see what hour it was. Um, it was past the midway point of the show for sure. Maybe
Mm.
closer to 10 o'clock. I think it was right before the Dudleys came on. So it was right around there. But yeah, I feel like Bo Dallas is on his way, and I think he shows up at Backlash. My opinion,
Now I
or
wonder
or
how
Raw.
he gets there. That's the only I'm trying to think. Like I wonder which matches he gets there.
Yeah, that's where like I'm trying to figure out like who's the target in all this.
It could, no, because they're not. I'm trying to think of who's versing at Backlash now. Like to really remember. I don't know. My guess is the challenging one. So maybe Judgment Day. Maybe they try to pull off a Damian Priest,
Mm.
and they try to because that's at least it's a bigger faction. So that's potentially the only way I see them going, and maybe giving him a championship opportunity right off the bat. But
That
that's
would be interesting.
I think that might be because I don't think AJ Styles it makes sense. They're probably gonna need more guys on SmackDown anyway, so maybe he does get the Cody Rhodes feel. I think he goes one of the two belts if he comes back. I think he either goes Cody Rhodes or he does Judgment Day and he brings back 3 or 4 people and they try to take on the Judgment Day as a faction versus faction.
I am down for a good faction war to build towards War Games.
That would be pretty nice. That would be good.
Last year they built towards a War Games match for like 4 or 5 months. It
That
was
was
really
great.
long, drawn out, and thank God, like the match itself was great and it ended, but that was a long build to last year's men's War Games. So who knows? Maybe they start building. Uh, this is one of those things where I really don't have a good answer, and I usually have a pretty good feel on what's happening. As far as predicting, but this was a tough one. I really don't know who Bo Dallas is going to target, but it'll be very interesting to see where they go. I wouldn't mind faction wars. That'd be great. It would give something for Judgment Day to do and LWO to do.
Yeah.
Just go rough shot on everybody.
Versus going against Ricochet for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. Round 2 notes for the draft. Braun Strowman is back.
Yes.
He looks
Yes.
pretty good. I kind of miss his ponytail though. I mean, that's I was not really a fan of him with
Yeah,
the short hair.
he has the effect that I have right now, or balding
Ah,
backwards, getting the. So I say, yeah, he's definitely bald in there, but still trying to keep the long hair.
he looks good tonight. He looks in
Mhm.
good shape.
Definitely
Tiffany,
bigger.
yeah, Tiffany Stratton. As revealed in round 2, is staying on SmackDown, where she's been all along. She's one that is going to do big things this year, whether it be Queen of the Ring or Money in the Bank winner. She's winning one of those two.
Mhm.
Yeah, faction versus faction within Roman Reigns' family. It's good. It's going to be nuts. That I can really see. Only thing is WWE needs to find somewhere to film TV because their Raw deal expires in September. Um, yeah, about the Raw deal, that is a very good question that I believe is being worked on right now as we speak. I would not be surprised if Raw goes on Peacock for
Hmm.
the next the 4 months leading
I
into
also
Netflix.
I figured that it would go to Fox and they would keep the WWE on, and it would just be called WWE on Fox. And then like you, it would move to Netflix. It would do everything, but you already have that worked out with SmackDown, so it makes enough sense to just add it to the contract. Peacock does make a lot of sense as well because they already have that contract. So either Fox or Peacock and move towards that.
Yeah, War Games could very well be faction versus faction within the Roman Reigns family for sure. I don't see it being really any sooner, so that makes absolute sense for
And
sure.
they have are there
They
10
gotta
people in
so they
that
gotta wait for Rock to come back and Roman to come back, Jacob Fatu to debut, and whoever else they want to add into this mix. Oh, not to mention if Usos reunite and Roman Reigns, comes back as a face, that might look appealing for Sami Zayn to reunite with them. Now you got Usos, Roman, Sami Zayn versus Rock, Jacob Fatu, Solo, and Tamatanga. 4-4. There's your War Games match.
Okay.
Now Rock possibly won't be in the match. You very well might be right. And that's very possible. His next match might not be till WrestleMania 41. So I'm wondering who you insert in that spot if that doesn't happen.
There's
We'll have to
probably a
see.
bunch of other guys that we don't even know about. in that family, it looks like there's about 20 every 2 years that pop up
Yeah,
out of nowhere.
this bloodline ain't going away anytime soon. It's just going to be
Yeah.
different versions of this that like we're in now.
There's a lot of guys in the indie scene that might need a year at best. They might need 6 months. They might come in the Royal Rumble and already have a WrestleMania moment by then. They might come out of nowhere.
Looks like Logan is starting in with Jey Uso, saying he's incapable of becoming a champion on his own. Then Jey Uso comes out and confronts Logan. Then Judgment Day comes out. Jey Uso attacks Judgment Day, but is outnumbered. Logan Paul gets Mahomes. I can't stand Pat Mahomes. I really cannot stand that guy. That's a whole nother story. But Logan Paul gets the Super Bowl rings from Pat Mahomes, intending to knock out Jey Uso, but Jey Uso gets out of the way. He gets walloped a little later, but Logan Paul nails JD McDonough with the 3 Super Bowl rings, knocking him out. And Finn Balor's in shock. Logan Paul's in shock. Jey Uso's right behind these guys, just kind of like getting in charge out of all this. Then Jey Uso gets attacked, and then out comes Braun Strowman. Not only do we just see him on screen, but now we see him physical in coming in and cleaning house. Braun Strowman comes in to save Jay, chases Logan away. We talked about how Braun Strowman looked pretty good tonight. So this whole segment basically screams to me that they're planting seeds for Jey Uso versus Logan Paul. And if I have to guess, you could probably do it by SummerSlam. Right now we're in May. June, July, August. Do they stretch it out for 3 months? That might be a little tough, but I would say Jey Uso versus Logan Paul is the next feud. I mean, I got Logan Paul losing this belt by SummerSlam in his home stadium, Cleveland, because he's been busy making babies, and his wife is gonna pop one out right around September, October. So Logan is probably just gonna chill out for a while, for a few months. And but so that's what I foresee coming. So depending when they schedule this match will determine, in my opinion, if Jey Uso becomes the Intercontinental Champion or not. I'm sorry, United States Champion. Your thoughts on this?
If Jay is able to travel, because I know the Usos, I can't remember which one, maybe both of them, but I know they used to have like travel bans, and it was very tough for them to leave the U.S. If they can get to Clash of Castle, I think that would be very big, and I think that a lot of people know of Logan Paul in the world, and I think to get him to Clash of Castle is definitely a good move.
So what do we have? That's in June, right?
I believe so. I believe that's the next one in June.
I mean, yeah, no, typical logic would have it that the next pay-per-view. I just don't know if they stretch this till SummerSlam. But at the latest, I expect Logan Paul to lose it. They can probably even do the match at Clash of the Castle and run it back at SummerSlam.
Yep.
But
that could be some. I mean, you see how much
there
is going in between with the Brass Knuckles, with the Friends coming in, with IShow Speed, KSI, all these guys that have a tie to Logan Paul. You can continuously get more and more people in there.
Can you, Brandon, is there any news? Somebody posted a comment in our chat. Any Tony Khan news that we should look into at all?
Doesn't look like it. It looks like it might be fake.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it's a little fake. We
Yeah.
hope he remains healthy. Yeah.
Sammy knocks out Chad Gable backstage at the end of Gable's segment with Miz and R-Truth. After that segment ended, as soon as that segment ended, you see a kick come out of nowhere. Gable's knocked out. And I thought this was a pretty cool visual. One of my favorite spots on the show, actually. So you had that building. Did you see? Well, let's go there. Let's go right to the match. Sami Zayn versus Bronson Reed for the Intercontinental Championship tonight. So they're clearly keeping Bronson Reed in the mix for the mid-card title for the IC Championship. I'm starting to see where they might be building to as far as the match goes. Before we go there, the match stops as Sammy was about to win Chad Gable with the suplex, and then an attack from behind. The match stops. Chad Gable puts the ankle lock on Sammy. And then Bronson hits a tsunami on Sammy as well. So Sammy's getting it both ways now. And then Bronson hits a Death Valley driver on Gable for Gable coming in and attacking Sammy and costing Bronson the match. It seems to me this is screaming a triple threat match. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the way that they build these guys, I think you'll see a Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed for a chance at the number one contender, and something goes wrong where they get counted out. Sammy gets involved. Bronson Reed throws Chad at Sammy. Then they get counted out. So nobody wins and they don't know what to do. And then it's a triple threat match. And then, then I feel like that's what they always build to. I hate WWE with sometimes because they constantly use the same type of story making and creating. But I think that's just the way that they're going to have to do it is you have a number one contender match, something happens, and then it builds to the triple threat.
Okay. I can go with that. Round 3 notes. LWO with Carlito drafted to Raw. This I found interesting after we saw on SmackDown. The video was revealed by Legado del Fantasma of Carlito attacking Dragon Lee the night before WrestleMania SmackDown backstage. And they showed it on video with LWO, Dragon Lee, and Rey Mysterio in the ring. And then we see Carlito attack Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio from behind. So it's clear to me that they're going to be splitting them up. It was kind of weird how Carlito got drafted with them. I guess it's not official that Carlito's officially out. So I guess next Monday night on Raw, we'll see some explaining going on with that storyline. Nakamura. Okay, so this is one main roster move. Nakamura is going to SmackDown. But we'll see what happens there. I really don't know where you put him. I thought he was perfectly fine in the Intercontinental title mix, mid card mix over there on Raw.
I think that Shinsuke has been, I mean, I can't remember the last time we witnessed him win either. So I think at least anything, give him new competitors, give him something brand new that can at least drive him a little bit, because you don't get any mic time from him anymore. There's no interviews. He just comes out and he's literally facing losing battles. So I think any type of movement for Shinsuke, who, I mean, used to have the crowd eating out of the palm of his hands at one point, now can't even get a reaction when he comes out. So I think it was a smart move to at least get him facing new people. And looking at Dropkick, what he just said, we need a rebirth. They've done him dirty. So I 100% agree. Like I said, that rebirth, that time now, getting into a new brand is exactly what he needs, because he's been losing the last, I'd say probably 7-8 months I can remember.
Yes. He's had prominent matches, but in a losing effort for sure. We need a rebirth of Shinsuke Nakamura. They've done him dirty. I trust Papa H to do that. Yeah, I think this would give him kind of like a little bit of a soft reset. So I just don't know how you get him in the title picture per se. That remains to be seen. But for now, get him on SmackDown. Get him some wins. Just get him some momentum. This way, they have a story to build off of for sure. More round 3 notes. Drew complaining about his draft position. As he's on a microphone coming out onto the entrance ramp area, complaining that Punk is sitting at home doing nothing, collecting a check, and meanwhile Punk gets picked ahead of him. And even Drew has the injury to his elbow, and Drew's still showing up. And then as Drew is talking crap about Punk, you hear Punk, his music go off. And Drew's like, like bewildered. He's looking for Punk. He doesn't know where he is. And then all of a sudden, the skybox up above lights up, and you see Punk in the skybox. So I saw that was pretty cool. You see Drew McIntyre storm off, and they even show a backstage segment, which I thought was cool. Drew storming off, Anyway, we'll get back to that in a second. So in between all of that, Candice LeRae defeats Maxine Dupree while she was distracted by Hartwell. Hartwell was out there slamming Ivy Nile into the post. Maxine was distracted as a result. Candice hits the wicked stepmother on Maxine, and Candice gets the win. Maxine is still green. Still so green. Very green.
Mm-hmm.
Greener than grass. But she has made a little slight improvement. Maybe.
She has the crowd with her. And that makes a lot of the difference. Yes, the wrestling does matter, but we've seen plenty of guys in WWE that the wrestling wasn't there, but they had the crowd behind them and they learned the wrestling. So even whatever's going to happen with this Chad Gable and now his whole change in persona of, yes, I was Mr. Good Guy, coach. Now I'm going to be hard on you. You know, she could literally learn from a great wrestler how to be a better wrestler, but she has the crowd behind her. So I hope that they at least keep the crowd with her and they continue to grow her. Because if she can learn the wrestling in the next year, she could be another one with a WrestleMania moment that comes out of nowhere. So I hope that, like you said, she is green, but if they get the crowd behind her and they let her learn a little bit more, give her a couple of wins, I think it could be a lot. And Ivy Nile's a great wrestler too. So if they keep that going, who knows where they could go with that.
So then they go back to the Drew segment. That was kind of in between to kind of give you a break of what's going on. Drew finally finds Punk's skybox, and he goes in and sees a picture of a signed autograph of Punk. Meanwhile, he's like getting ready to bug out. He's bugging. Punk's music goes off again, and Punk goes to the ring, and then you see, it was a very quick promo. Basically, the point of it was basically he made it clear to Drew McIntyre he was going to make his life hell. So this is some good long-term storytelling. I'm loving it.
Michael Cole even said right after that, if I think that CM Punk has already made his life hell, and he couldn't have been more right on the target with that statement. You've already seen he messed him up with the belt. He messed him up with attacking him week after week. Now he has other guys cutting promos for him. He's still cutting his own promo. He's out of the sleeve now. So you really don't know when he's going to come back, but he looks like he's getting better. So it's just CM Punk is really proving that he can keep the fan base around without even having to wrestle. And they've done such a great job with giving him that couple of minutes that he needs and doesn't even need it, where everybody's chanting CM Punk, we want Punk. Like, they're just, again, another guy where the crowd is eating out of the palm of his hands, and he's not even wrestling. It's just great to see that everybody loves this CM Punk comeback. And now when he does come back to wrestle, which I don't know the exact time, again, they didn't give a real timetable for it, it's gonna be great for Drew. And I think Drew is gonna grow a lot from being able to take on CM Punk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. By the way, Drew McIntyre news. He signed a new multi-year deal contract. I meant to tweet it yesterday, and I was just so busy. But Fightful Select reported it, I believe, first before anybody, as usually they do. And I went to retweet it, and I forgot. But Drew McIntyre is signed with the WWE multi-year deal, and there are more coming. Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch's contracts are still being worked out. Finn Balor's re-signed. Basically, everybody, for the most part, that their contracts were up this year is basically staying. And it just goes to show how happy people are with Triple H and backstage, how morale has skyrocketed. And meanwhile, AEW's, it's kind of shaky. But it was flip-flopped the other way around. When AEW was new, WWE backstage was horrible.
Yeah.
Morale was very low. You're right. It was The Rock, at least as far as I know. It was one of the two, though. Fightful usually reports stuff first, but I guess from like a wrestling standpoint, wrestling website standpoint, Fightful was the first that I saw, but The Rock did bring it up. Absolutely. And on the topic of women, I'm not sure if there's a need to keep the tag titles, get rid of them. I feel like WWE would benefit more with women having mid-card titles on each show. Women's Intercontinental title, maybe Women's United States Champion, or maybe I don't know.
I was
maybe
thinking
they could do a Netflix championship.
that was going to be one. That was where I was thinking to go with it. I was just thinking a national championship, and instead of calling it the United States, just call it a national championship. I don't know if they could. Obviously, the W was World Wrestling, but if they could have a women's as the W and try to mess around with that for namesake would be smart. But I think by adding more titles, you lose the prestige of actual titles. So it's kind of, yes, it would be great to get them going, but women should be able to compete in wrestling just to compete. It shouldn't be for a shiny belt. It should be to better themselves and to put on a good show. And I don't think going for a belt is the way to give the best show.
And if you're not going to add more women's mid-card titles, at least make meaningful matches out of this. Mm-hmm. Let's see more number one contender matches. Let's see tournaments. AEW was very good at doing tournaments for deciding their number one contender, even though they had a ranking system. But tournaments were also good because it just makes matches meaningful in the process.
Right. Absolutely.
So, like, King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring. We towards the last couple of years, King of the Ring winners were number one contenders. That's what I feel that should happen for this year, and which it probably will. Mm-hmm. But round 4 notes: Ilya Dragunov is drafted to Raw. I don't know if any of you guys saw my little YouTube short that I did today, but I did a quick promo advertising tonight's show that we're doing right now. And one of the things I mentioned is Ilya Dragunov is getting drafted. Where's he going to go? Raw or SmackDown? Tune in tonight and find out. Something like that. And so sure enough, I knew Ilya was coming up. It was quite evident. I think most fans had an idea that Ilya was coming when he lost his title to Trick Williams last week. So that's going to be an excellent. Okay, so this is where I wanted to go with. Would you agree on this assessment that Ilya Dragunov will be the one to join, maybe not right away, but join Imperium because of the history that he has with Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser from NXT UK?
I was very indifferent of what they were first doing with Kaiser because they gave him a vignette, and I still can't get this vignette out of my mind, but they gave it to him like 4 months ago. Usually when you give a guy a vignette, that's their sign to get a push. Nothing happened from it. They didn't let him leave Imperium and go off on his own. They didn't, have him attack Vinci till right now. So I was very surprised. I personally thought that if Ilya came around, maybe he would be the pipe bomb in Imperium and blow the whole thing up. So now I have no clue what they're going with it. I think Ilya might stay on his own. Maybe he goes and gets Vinci, and then we get an Imperium versus Ilya and Vinci. I don't know if they did anything in NXT, but we didn't hear anything about Vinci tonight. So maybe that's where he goes. Maybe they do the whole lost puppy where he goes to WWE and doesn't have anybody. So somebody finds him, but I don't know where they go with him now. So I think Imperium might not be the move for him, though. I think he did too much as a solo art and being an NXT champion, being a North American champion, doing all that stuff to not need to go to another faction.
That's fair.
But like I said, I have no clue. Like that's one guy where I figured he was going to go to Raw, and I'm just very, because we saw him on that Raw after Mania, so I figured that he was going to get drafted tonight, and I figured he was going to Raw. I don't know what they do with him after, but I know the writers are great and they'll find a great use of him. I just don't know where they're going with him. There's
history, and I feel like Ilya could easily, in some way, tango with Imperium, whether it be with or against, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I fully expect that to happen. Otherwise, I really don't know, where they're gonna do that. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been talking about Gunther for the last 6 months. In my prediction with Cody Rhodes winning this year's WrestleMania, I've been predicting that since WrestleMania 39 that Cody was going to win on 40 because of the last WrestleMania 30, 20, 10. Look how those anniversaries, 10-year anniversary WrestleManias ended. Mm-hmm. There was no better way to end 40, which is why part of the reason why I was predicting Cody to win at WrestleMania 40, and also the point that Cody was WWE's reminded us that Cody is going to finish the story. That's all we heard for the last year. So there was no doubt in my mind that there was a plan for Cody Roman at WrestleMania 40, right?
Right.
So in this process, since around June of last year, I've been talking about Cody wins at 40. Gunther would be the guy to beat Cody because of the interactions. And again, we saw it at Royal Rumble 2024, Cody and Gunther interacting and having their fight. In last year's Rumble, they were the last two guys. So Cody and Gunther is gonna happen at some point. I get that they're on two different shows, but we know Gunther's probably gonna win the Rumble and then pick Cody, and then that's how that's gonna play out. So that I'm sticking by that. I don't think Cody tangos with Bloodline too much over the next couple months, except maybe the match that they want to revisit with The Rock, Cody versus Rock. But other than that, I think Cody does some different feuds, number one contender matches. I think he's basically done with Bloodline here, in my opinion. And I think Cody could very well be Gunther will be the world heavyweight champion, WWE champion, by WrestleMania 41. And yeah, you could do Ilya and as a tag champ. Yeah, there's options there. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I have Gunther absolutely winning the belt against Cody by WrestleMania 41 for sure. And I think now that it's clear that Cody and Gunther are on opposite brands, it's kind of showing me that, okay, Gunther's going to have to win the Rumble to get to Cody. So that's exactly what I think is going to happen. For sure. Yeah, I mean, you got time to build Ilya to do that for sure. Absolutely. It's been done once. I didn't really watch it because it was during pandemic and I was kind of checked out of NXT from NXT UK. I wasn't really watching it because they were still doing their, I don't know. It was just a lot of content and I just missed a lot of the post COVID shutdown NXT UK, whatever was left there. Yeah, imagine them versus Bate and Pete Dunne. Yeah, when it cross paths, that'd be great.
Yeah, two 5'8" guys versus a 6'4" and a 6'1" guy. I love speed and well, actually, they're more of a technical guys. So I do love power versus technical as well.
Miz and Truth defeats Otis and Tozawa tonight, so we saw that. Some more round 4 notes. We're going to buzz this really quickly. Chelsea Green and Piper move to SmackDown. We'll see what they do there. You see Adam Pearce celebrating backstage that he doesn't have to deal with that anymore, which I thought was pretty funny. Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan with Tiffany sitting in the first row looking on. We see Liv powerbomb Nia in the match, nearly winning. I thought that was a pretty cool visual. Naomi shows up and attacks Tiffany Stratton from behind as Tiffany was sat in the first row of the fans. And Nia's distracted. Then Liv hits the codebreaker, followed by the Oblivion for the win. Huge win for Liv Morgan. You can kind of tell that they're cooking Liv Morgan now a little bit. I think she's the next one that's probably going to take the belt off of Becky and kind of like the transitional champ between Becky and until the time that Rhea Ripley gets her belt back and gets her revenge. Yeah, let's see. No more Chelsea Green for Samantha unless it's on. Yeah, that this is actually true. I did not even think of that.
Chelsea Green. I hate it. I think it's hysterical. I love Samantha Green. I love Samantha Urban, and I think that she does an amazing job. That's the one where I'm like, I mean, I also don't like Chelsea Green that much. So regardless, I just think it's very funny the accents that she puts on a lot of these wrestlers. I don't like the way she says Gable. It sounds very nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a few she does great. Most of them she does great.
Ludwig Kaiser.
Yes.
Lyra Valkyria, round 5 notes. Lyra Valkyria is drafted from NXT. Was very happy for her. She's an amazing wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
She can work. She can go. That was a good pickup. She's going to Raw, if I remember correctly, because I didn't know. Okay, cool. Yeah. Red hat. It's the visuals coming back to me.
Right.
Candice LeRae and Indy are moving to SmackDown. One of the few wrestlers that are crossing over. So we'll see what happens there. And that will also tie into one of the next rounds, which we'll get to in a second. Did you see JD McDonough's welt on the head?
That was crazy. Make up the heck. Obviously, they've done it plenty of times, but just having I forget. He said "wepa," which is I don't know what I don't know exactly what in Spanish it is, but just very very funny, and it just made sense. He was like, "Oh, take care of that wepa." Yeah, like I said, I was laughing, but regardless, yeah, no, I mean they've done it before with the fake stuff, but that was exactly what needed to happen. Like that was just funny. It's needed for the comic relief.
So anyway, Dominic says to Judgment Day he can't believe we fell to the 4th round. And then Priest gives a rebuttal and says that you guys shouldn't be surprised. You tried helping me last week and failed. I don't need your help with. He basically told the guys that I don't need your help with Jey Uso. And then, sure enough, JD tried to doing too much in the main event, which we'll get to in a second, costing Judgment Day the match. The last round of the draft, we saw the Final Testament is on Raw now, so there's not going to be any more feud with the Pride. Thank God that's over. And I think Final Testament going to Raw, I think they need a little bit of a soft reset button here for sure. They'll see, more feuds. They need to be feuding with different people. What do you think about Final Testament move?
I'm not a fan. I think Karrion Kross is just, I hate to call him another run-of-the-mill superstar. I just don't, I'm not driven by him. I'm not seeing him as a good heel. And I know that a lot of people are very torn in the same way I am too. Like, I would love for him to be a good heel to drive. I think that it could be a very good faction. I was a big fan of AOP when they first came onto Raw. I think it was 4 years ago. I want to say maybe even 5 years at this point now, because they definitely had an audience. So they came around, I want to say 2019 or so. So give it almost 5 years now that the AOP has been back. I think that there's a lot they can do with them, but they haven't found what to do. So now going to Raw, you at least have Judgment Day, but you at least maybe have the New Day. There's still not too many tag teams that they can go after that are faces for them to be those heel strong guys. So I don't know what they do with them. And I just think that they need more face tag teams if they want to have this many heel factions. So we might see them now against LWO, but other than that, what do they do? So first of all, that's the first thing they're making is definitely Final Testament versus LWO, especially because of the Rey Mysterio versus Karrion Kross that we never really got to see. So that's my first, me as a WWE writer, if you need me, that's the first thing I'm writing is LWO versus Final Testament.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens because I really honestly can't think of too many things to do except maybe like being Judgment Day lackeys, kind of bolster that group a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I want to give the Sable a chance. This could be better than Seth's attempt at this in the pandemic. If it doesn't work, bring NXT Cross back, shave the head. Listen, from your lips to God's ears, I think they should keep the Pride together, but kind of go back to the NXT presentation for sure. That's what I liked. I didn't like when Karrion Kross is and give him some wins. Just give him some wins.
Yeah,
so he could benefit from some wins, get a little momentum behind him, and make him more of a believable heel. And then I think we have a different conversation there with Karrion Kross for sure. DIY headed over to SmackDown, which makes sense because Candice LeRae is going there, and maybe they can form the way and go from there and see what happens. SmackDown selects Blair Davenport.
I didn't really know too much about her in general. I watched a little bit that I could during the commercial break, and it looks like of all the NXT people that got picked tonight, Blair didn't get a reaction from the WWE crowd, but she got a very big reaction from her colleagues at NXT. Yeah. So I think she has a lot of respect at NXT to be brought up to WWE.
Yeah, she's a really good talent. I like her in-ring work. I like her look, presentation, and I think she's going to do some good stuff for sure.
That gothic feel is definitely starting to take over WWE a little bit, and that's just another solid. They literally wrote on her draft screen. It was I can't remember exactly. It was like gothic something with cold-hearted. Like it was just calling her like all this great stuff. I'm like gothic, cold-hearted. I'm like I love that.
Judgment Day versus Ricochet, Andrade, and Jey Uso. So basically, good match back and forth. It was relatively the match was moving the whole time. It was pretty cool. Wasn't bored by the main event. We see JD McDonough get involved, as Priest was about to put the South of Heaven on Uso, because JD pushes Uso, totally screws up what Priest was gonna do. In the process, Priest knocks down Finn Balor. Whole hoopla going on, and in the end, Finn Balor gets in the ring and he loses. He takes the pin from Jey Uso. Jey Uso gets the win. So Jey, Andrade, and Uso and Ricochet, get the win over Judgment Day. More dissension. So this is something to keep an eye on. There's definitely cracks in the foundation, especially with Rhea gone. Any thoughts about this last segment?
I mean, they've done it before where JD has been the guy to mess everything up. And a lot of times in WWE, it's what have you done for me now? And right now, he's being a screw up. So I can't imagine Damian Priest wants too many more screw ups. So it's going to be a really big testament of JD and of the writers and of everybody to either continue JD being a screw up and finally kick him out, or turn his whole tide around. Now with Dominic, I believe they said he might need surgery, might not. I think he's going into Tommy John, which usually takes a baseball pitcher a year to come back from. So whatever their decision is with him, they could just implode the whole Judgment Day or get JD out of there, and then I don't know what you do after that. Because like I said, like you said, Rhea's possibly gone. If JD's gone, we don't see Dominic. Who knows the timeline with his injury? So very tough to know where they're going to go with this. And that's the joy of WWE. You don't know what they're going to do week after week, but definitely a little scary with now 2 injuries, JD still a screw up, and no belts other than Damian has his.
Jeff Passan was in the crowd behind commentary. Dom shut down the rumor of Tommy John, no need for surgery.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, that's good. Like I said, I heard that he needed Tommy John, and a baseball player is usually around that, but great job on Dropkick to keep up with it.
This is going on for 2, maybe 3 weeks now. I imagine he probably would have had the surgery anyway already, but
baseball players sometimes have the idea to do it for months and then they rehab instead. So he might have been going back and forth between doctors and saying, look, one doctor could have said you need a surgery. The other one said, no, we can rehab this. Same way with the Seth, the way that he did it was instead of getting the knee surgery, he rehabbed and trying to get back healthy. So it's doctors are doctors. They're the ones that look at the x-rays. They know what's going on, but he probably got multiple different ideas. So they definitely saw what was needed and said, you know what? Hey, he doesn't need the Tommy John surgery. He just needs a little rehab.
So that is the close of our Raw post show in regards to talking about Raw and the draft. Now we have a segment in development for our podcast and our post shows. It's going to be called the Lightning Round. So Brandon is going to have first crack, and I'll have him pick out some questions for me a couple of weeks from now, the next time we do a show, of basically 30 to 60 seconds tops of a couple questions I'm going to ask. They're basically in regards to, current WWE, what's going on. So, Brandon, you ready?
Go for it.
All right. So, here we go. Let's get to the first question. All right. What are some feuds we should expect to see for Cody Rhodes this year?
I think a very big draw now is going to have to be Carmelo Hayes coming from NXT. We already saw that match tonight. On SmackDown last Friday. So I think that's going to be a very big one. I think we have to see Legacy Part 2. Randy Orton looks great, and I don't know exactly where to go with that, but I think Randy Orton would be a very good pick staying on SmackDown. And I think, obviously, we weren't able to see it the first time around as AJ Styles took on LA Knight, and AJ Styles was the winner. But you have to expect LA Knight to get into that picture staying on SmackDown as well.
Cool. Which superstar do you think is going to benefit from this year's draft the most?
That was I was in between with a few different guys. I'm trying to think of ones that may have went to a new place. So I'll pick guys. I'll at least pick guys that are going to a new place or girls. There really weren't. Braun Breaker going to Raw, leaving from SmackDown. I think that's a very, very smart move by them. Ricochet obviously was going to stay with Raw because he's going to stay with Samantha, as we know. But him getting on that speed now on Wednesday, watching those 3-minute matches is great. So for him to show a little bit off of that in Raw, then go wrestle Wednesday, I think he's going to be a very big winner this year. Anybody else that is leaving? Not really. Oh, Baron Corbin after night 1. He was picked to SmackDown. I think that his back and forth has gone absolutely crazy. But I think if they're actually able to find a way to get Baron Corbin back into SmackDown, I think that he can have a very big draw. I'm not a big fan of his, but I think after going back and forth these last few years, he has to realize this is his last chance on a main roster.
Who do you think is going to get the next big push for one superstar who's going to get the next big push out of the guys and the girls?
CM Punk back from injury. I think he'll take on Drew. I think he'll have a chance at some type of belt. I think that CM Punk coming back to WWE is the biggest draw imaginable in the last couple of months. Obviously, he got hurt one of the first few nights he came back in an actual match at Royal Rumble. So I think he's going to have a very big draw the second he comes back. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a very big draw. I'll give you another one, Braun Strowman coming back as well. I think they could do a lot with him, and I think that they could really push his monster character and find stuff that we haven't been able to see from him in years.
And which female do you think will get the next big push?
The girl that was picked second tonight and first by SmackDown, Jade Cargill. I mean, again, another one coming in with all this hype. Everybody knows her. The entrance music is great. The wrestling style is great. The big body build now being with Bianca. That was a lot of B's there. But just everything about her shows why she should have been in WWE for the last couple of years, and she is definitely going to get a major push. I don't want to say definitely, but I really believe she'll get a major push this year.
She's right there, but I got Tiffany Stratton winning either King of the Ring or Money in the Bank to do so. I'm really high on Tiffany Stratton. It seems like she's getting that big push. And one more quick question. With Becky winning the title last week, who do you think will be the one to take the title off for her? Me personally, I got Liv Morgan.
Yeah. I don't think there was too many other, like I said, there weren't too many other women picked high up on that. Liv Morgan was actually the first woman chosen by Raw on Friday night. So it at least makes sense that, like you said, Liv Morgan makes the most sense. She was the highest picked by Raw, and they at least know that they have a future champion when they got that draft pick. So I think that's the best decision there.
Brandon, that wraps up our Raw post show. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. We're actually going to get ready to do a recording, which won't really even be that long, about maybe half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour. Is the Backlash card is honestly a little bit kind of straightforward. We have an idea who's winning, who's losing, and who's doing what. But definitely check out that show. We usually get a lot of predictions right. We miss here and there. But definitely check out that show. That show we're recording tonight, but that will air Wednesday after Dynamite. So check that out. And then that'll be streaming on podcast platforms by Thursday or Friday. Those of you guys that are watching, as far as Raw post show goes, we'll be back in 2 weeks at latest, as this will be our bi-weekly show, so we cannot wait. And those of you guys that are watching, thank you so much. Dropkick Discussions, thank you so much for being a part of our conversations, and I really appreciate the comments. And it's always good to have people dropping comments so we have stuff to bounce off of it too as well. So thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. And those of you guys that are watching, make sure you hit that like button. That will help us out tremendously. Share this with your friends, subscribe, and we will talk to you guys soon.